Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Pitchin It With Ben. In this episode, I am joined by 2022 LPGA Tour Rookie, Dewi Weber. Dewi, first of all, Dewi's awesome, and I think you'll know what I'm talking about. You listen to her tell the different stories from her life to this point playing golf, and she dives into that. We get into that. Her childhood growing up in the Netherlands. We talk about her time spent at the University of Miami. We talk about LPGA Q-Series. Her time playing on the Epson Tour for 3 years, formerly known as the Symetra Tour. And we talk about this year, 2022, and the things that she's looking forward to the most. So without any further delay, thank you for listening to this episode. Please don't forget to like, rate, comment, subscribe, and share. All right. I am not just super excited. I am thrilled to be joined by former member of the Miami Hurricanes women's golf team, now a professional golfer and a 2022 LPGA Tour rookie, Dewi Weber. Dewi, how's it going?
It's good. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful. I'm so appreciative to get to spend some time with you tonight.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So I guess first of all, what's up? What's happening? What's new?
Not much. Just like prepping for the season. We're gonna start in 2 weeks or so, or I'm gonna start in 2 weeks, hopefully. I guess there's Tournament of Champions before that, but hopefully gonna start in Boca this year. And I don't know. I just been training. That's all.
That's all.
Yeah. I mean, it was such a quick turnaround for us. Ending Symetra Tour season obviously in November, but then Q-Series was pretty late in comparison to the years prior. So for me, I don't know, I had like 2 weeks of just doing nothing and then I had to get back to it. So it feels like a very quick turnaround in comparison to all the other years, but that's okay. Like I'm really excited. So
Right. So I haven't known you for a long time, but just based off of your Instagram, some of your social media, it seems
yeah.
like downtime to you isn't necessarily like what's the definition of downtime for you? Like not touching the clubs? Is that what you mean?
Yeah, not touching the clubs. I mean, we went to Utah for about, what was it, like 10 days or so. My girlfriend's from there actually. So we went to go visit her parents. But I mean, I have a dog. I have a German Shepherd. He needs to run. I don't like running, but like we try to make it work. So we go on like lots of hikes. And so I think both of us like to stay active, even if we're like relaxing. So yeah, my downtime is still like getting a move on basically.
Yeah. But I don't blame you. Like that's like the best case scenario. Doing something that you enjoy, but it also kind of keeps you in shape a little bit too. Like
yeah,
nice.
For sure. And like, don't get me wrong. I mean, it gets dark now at 5. So it's not like I'm still in the gym from like 5 to 8 or whatever. Like I still enjoy sitting on the couch and watching TV or watching a movie or whatnot. But I mean, overall, I just like this to keep moving.
Yeah. It totally makes sense. Several things I want to touch on with you in this podcast, but I guess we gotta go to the beginning, where it all started, because just doing some brief background on you, it seems like you got a little bit of a later start in golf than a lot of people that you see on the professional golf world. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So I didn't start playing golf really until I was about 12 years old or so. I started playing tennis when I was 3 or 4, like super early. And I love tennis and I still do love tennis. But when I was 12, I got injured really badly playing. And I couldn't really, do any sort of like high paced sport for a long time because I couldn't do a lot of weight bearing stuff. And then, getting back to like being able to run and stuff was just a very long process. And my parents both played golf. And I was I was 12 years old. Like I liked running around. Like tennis was an outlet for me to just release my energy basically. And now all of a sudden, like that outlet had been taken away from me. And so maybe because my parents were a little bit frustrated that I was probably also annoyed, and mainly just to be outside. My parents would take me to the golf course. And so that's kind of how I initially got into golf. I absolutely hated it. Like I didn't like it at all. Because it's very different from tennis. Again,
Yeah.
like I like running around. I like being like anything fast paced, I love. And golf is just simply, especially if you're 12, not that. Like it's not soccer. It's not like anything that I liked to do. And so I hated it. But I think because it was because it was the only thing I could do, basically. And B, because it was still outdoors. And my dad had bought me like a tiny little, or probably not that tiny, but like a little driver that I would like to like smack around. That's kind of how I started to like golf more and more. Because I think because I play tennis and like it's still a rotational sport, like I had kind of a knack for it. So I don't know. Eventually, I started liking it more and more and more. And by the time that I could play tennis again, I was kind of like really into golf. And that just like kind of grew. And I ended up being like playing tournaments in the Netherlands and still like playing tennis. But I got to a point where myself included, but mainly like everyone else is like, why are you still playing tennis when you're kind of like better at playing golf? And so because I really like competing, I eventually like chose golf over tennis, not because I liked it more, but because I was better at it.
So what age was that? Because I saw something online in just doing some of this research. You're on the
Yeah.
Dutch national team by the age of 14.
So yeah, I think so. I think it was 14.
So
Yeah, so that happened really quickly. And I think, I mean, the Netherlands is a small country and golf isn't super popular. So not to sell myself short, but there's not a humongous pool of people to like choose from, basically, like there is in the US. But I think that's what made it fun for me and made me choose like golf over tennis because there was a point where I was both in the national team for tennis and golf, but like I was just better compared to all the other kids in my age category in golf than I was for tennis. And like again, I freaking loved competing, freaking loved winning. So that was like kind of a no-brainer for me.
right. I mean, yeah, I get that. I'm a pretty competitive person too. Nowhere near the level that like you are. Oh, competitiveness can go across anything,
Yeah.
but like that's I know what you mean a little bit, like on a much less a smaller level.
No, I
But
gotcha. Yeah, that's a great for sure.
yeah, so in the Netherlands, which I didn't mention at first, but yeah, you grew up in the Netherlands, from the
Yeah.
Netherlands, and you did mention that it's not the most popular sport. What is the most popular sport in the Netherlands?
Soccer.
Soccer.
Soccer by far.
So did
And
you
for
play some of
girls,
that?
maybe. So I think overall it's just soccer everywhere, probably in Europe. In the Netherlands, a sport that a lot of kids do as well as field hockey.
Okay.
So those two, I would say, as far as like team sports and sports that you mainly like grew up with, is like soccer and field hockey.
Okay. And then, so you said you did continue playing tennis for a little bit, well, after
No,
you
I
could,
think
or
I
no?
probably was out of tennis for like a year and a half or so. It took a long time for me to be able to play again.
Yeah. So by that point, you were already like rolling in golf, and
Yeah, and I think when I could get back to tennis, they gave me maybe like a year in the selection to kind of catch up to all the other kids. But I mean, tennis is a sport that you develop so quickly, and like you really have to keep up. And
mhm.
like missing a year and a half feels like missing five compared to like all the other kids what they're doing. So I don't know. I think it was like a perfect storm of like me just being able to compete with kids in golf and like starting to win versus me like having to work like five times as hard as I did before in tennis just to keep up. Like I wasn't winning anything. I wasn't near like the best. And so like yeah, I just chose golf.
So as time goes on, um, early you're playing golf, your teenage years going into high school and stuff, you're getting to play a lot of events, I guess, around the world. Seems like getting
Yeah.
to be a member of the national team, you're competing in golf. At what point did you think that you wanted to pursue it at a higher level? Like you eventually played college golf, and then now you're playing professional golf. But when did it come on your radar?
Um, so for me, like the thought of me being able to maybe play professionally came after the World M in Japan. That was my first time, I think, playing the World M for the Netherlands. And my team, it was myself and Van Dam. And oh shoot, I think it was Romy. But for the purposes, this story is mainly about Anne. Anne played super well, like super well. I think she got a top 10. And I believe that that's when she decided, I think I'm good enough to turn professionally. And I want to, I mean, Anne has always been like, ever since I've known her, which is probably since I was 13 or so, has been very set on turning professional and winning tournaments and being on the LPGA and whatnot. Like her purpose in life since like I've known her was to be a professional golfer.
Yeah.
And that really for me wasn't the case for a long time. Like I just wanted to compete basically. And golf was an outlet for me to like do that in. But playing the World M, seeing Anne compete and doing so well, and then kind of like measuring myself with all the other girls that were there and seeing the kind of lifestyle that they were living, I was like, oh, being here in Japan in like like other side of the world for me, meeting all these people, like competing in the highest level, I actually really like this. And up until that point, I don't think I ever thought of like turning professionally or going to college for that matter. I mean, going to college, yes, going to college in the US, not so much.
Mm.
And so I think on the plane ride back, Anne told me she was going to turn professionally and she was going to play the LET tour or play LETQ school or something like that. And it got me thinking, I was like, I think that's what I eventually also want to do. I know that I'm not ready yet.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what made me then look for college coaches that would have me on their team.
What age was this?
I must have been like 18, like super late. Like I kind of decided before that tournament that I was gonna quit golf and like go to law school basically.
In the
And
Netherlands?
yeah, in the Netherlands, like the US was not really on my radar up until that point.
That's
I think I
incredible.
must have been like 17 or 18. Like I was very late in high school. Like I know that most people start looking for colleges in their sophomore year or so. That was not the case for me.
That's incredible. So then what was like, I guess there was not much of a recruiting process. Well, how did that work out? Did you
No, my
say
recruiting process. So, I mean, so I play the World Am and there's usually coaches there. And then I play since I was probably 15. I played like every European team championship and every like European individual championship. And there's always coaches there. But the funny thing is, like, coaches would go to our like national coach, or as I like grew older, they would come up to me and they're like, hey, this is our program, this is our team, we would love to have you, we have scholarships available. And basically every time I just said like, no, I'm not interested. And so after the World M in Japan, I was like, I started emailing all these coaches back, right? So it's like, hey, remember me from like 2 years ago and you offered me a scholarship? And they were all like, yeah, that's gone. So that failed. And then my idea was to just make a very generic email with like, I left like some blank spaces in there and I would like try to personalize it
right?
and send it to like, I think I must have sent it to like every head coach of a college that was like in the top 50 on the NCAA ranking. And didn't get that many responses, but the responses that I did get, um, I started talking to those coaches, and eventually, like, I went to two universities that I was really looking at, and it was Miami and South Carolina. And then I chose Miami because I thought the transition for me coming from the Netherlands to Miami would be easier than the transition from the Netherlands to like Columbia, South Carolina.
Mm,
So
yeah. So you end up at the U. They still call it
yeah,
the U?
yeah,
University of Miami.
Yeah, it's
So
weird, but yeah, we do call it the U.
it, it's just very interesting. So like, what was that experience? First of all, moving from the Netherlands to Miami, Florida. You said it would be a better transition than Columbia, South Carolina. Um, but what was that transition like?
I think at first it was kind of lonely, as I'm sure like a lot of um, foreign students in the US can relate to. Like you don't really know anyone. Playing college golf is a very different beast than like playing amateur golf in Netherlands, I think, just because I was always kind of guaranteed to play like whichever tournament we would go to in the like with the national team. I was like I kind of knew that I was going to be there and I didn't really have to prove myself in that way. And I remember my freshman year, my coach was like kind of explained to me how we would do qualifying and I was like, wait, I have to qualify. I can't just play. I was like flabbergasted. It's like, what do you mean we have to play for our place? So I think that was quite interesting to make that transition. And then for me, I don't think when I came to the US, I was very social. Not that like I was a complete loner, but like I like my own space and I had
Mhm.
a not like the easiest time like putting myself out there in like every social setting. Um, like that was hard for me. But I mean, if anything, like coming to the US has like completely done a 180 on me for that matter. Cause like I feel very comfortable in social settings now to just be like, hi, this is who I am. You wanna be like you wanna be friends? So
Yeah.
that has been very good for my like personal development, I think.
Yeah, that's awesome. You know what's interesting is that for me, whenever I'm like traveling to other cities, especially for LPGA events and stuff, or any professional golf event, whatever, wherever I'm at, it's like I have a little less nervousness when I'm approaching people than I would in my hometown. Like I don't, it's really
That's so
strange.
interesting.
I don't know why, but anyway, this isn't about me, it's about you. But I was looking at that roster your freshman year. It was also like a very like a an older team. It looked like there was like three
Yeah,
seniors, a junior, and then a you, the freshman, something like that.
yeah. Yeah, it was just me as a freshman.
So it was
I think actually halfway through the year, there was another girl came in who was a freshman who only stayed like for one semester. But it was mainly just like, yeah, I was the only freshman coming in. I believe we had four seniors
four
and
seniors.
two juniors, and then me. So it was a very old team. Yeah. It was,
But
however, like probably that first year was like the best team as far as like the people that were on it. Like we just had like an actual team as opposed to um like 7 or 8 individuals that like bring a score together.
yeah.
So I
So
think that's what made that year for us like very successful.
yeah, how did it start out? You said it was kind of a you flabbergasted. That's the word you use? Flabbergasted?
Yeah.
Flabbergasted to find out you had to like qualify for your a spot in like the tournament lineup. How did things start out for you that year? Because I know how it finished, and I'll talk about that in a minute. But like,
I
how,
think honestly, like I don't remember that much of it. I think I played every tournament that year. Um, but yeah, I believe I mean, it was just like a lot of like trying to fit in with the team, which I did. I loved all my teammates my first year. And like the whole like traveling with a team, like not having to or like getting used to the coach like making your schedule for you, whereas I was a little bit more used to okay, go do what you need to do basically.
yeah,
Um all that was a bit of an adjustment, but I never perceived it as like an annoyance or anything. I just like I like the whole experience. I just don't remember that much to it. I don't remember much of my first year playing golf up until probably NCAA regionals. I
where
don't I don't remember any of the courses that we played. I don't remember any of the like tournaments, like what the schedule was like. I just remember regionals and then nationals at the end.
so okay, yes, perfect. Talk about that. Regionals, you finished third, and
Yeah, I
then
think so.
nationals tie for second. So like
Yeah.
you found something. You like game, and that's the awesome thing about golf too, which can be frustrating because it can go the other way sometimes too. But like things start
Yeah.
clicking, and I don't like what do you remember from those? I guess that is what you remember.
Um,
What do you remember from those weeks?
so it's not like I remember like every shot or every
Right.
round that I shot during especially regionals. I just remember we were playing the Texas A&M course, I believe, in God, don't even know where it is in Texas, but that doesn't really matter. We were doing quite well, I believe, as a team. And up until this point, Miami hadn't been to NCAA's like finals, I guess, for like 25 years or something like that. Like a very long time. Like we have been very shitty for a very long time. And I remember our goal going into it obviously was like getting to NCAA finals. But I don't think that many people on our team thought that it could be done. We were all just like, let's just play and see where it ends up. And I remember I was doing really well after 2 days. I think it's 4 days, but and coming down the stretch on the last day, I asked my coach and my assistant coach who was walking with me, and I was like, "Hey, where are we at um on the leaderboard, I guess, as a team?" And he was like, "Well, I'm not sure. It really depends on like the person who's playing, I guess, in front of me, what they're doing on like the last hole." And then I, I told him I was like, "All right, I don't really care. Like, where am I on the leaderboard? Because I feel like I was playing well, and so my idea was like, if the team can't get in because it's like someone else, and I can't like yell at a person to make a putt or anything in golf.
Right, right.
So my idea was like, okay, what do I have to do for myself to be in like NCAA finals? Because I felt like that was possible. He was like, I think you just have to par out. And I think I made like birdie par, and the like last par got us into the sixth spot, I believe. So it's like a, oh, I made it. Wait, oh, the team also made it. This is really cool. So that was awesome, I think. That was
Yes.
one of my like fondest memories of college. Almost like more fun than getting second place at nationals the like couple weeks after, just because it was historic, or not historic, but like it was a really big deal for the program.
Yeah.
And for us to be able to do that my freshman year was for me like a really cool experience. And then also because the team was so old, it was a really cool experience for the seniors because it was like, oh, we like end our college career on a high note. So I think that
Yeah.
was really fun for all of us.
Especially with golf being such an individual sport, like majority of your career is spent just focusing on yourself and not
Yeah.
having that many like team opportunities. So I know it seems like mostly everyone that I've talked to that play college golf, um, it's some of the best like memories they had, especially the team aspect of it.
Yeah, it's something that you don't get very often. And like you said, probably the only time is in college. Or if you play in Europe on a national team and you get that a little bit like once a year. Um, but yeah, it's something you won't get for a long time if you're a junior, and then like you won't get for like a very long time once you turn professional. So
Yeah. I mean, it's
um,
like if you like there's the Solheim Cup, which is
right,
obviously that's a big deal, but that does not include everybody in the world. Like there's so
exactly.
many people that get excluded from that. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And I
What
guess now with the LPGA we have the Dow, which is really cool, I think.
yeah.
But yeah, it's not very often that you get to play in a team format for sure.
When you look back at those years in college at University of Miami, what are
Mhm.
some of the lessons that you took away from that time?
Well, I think the number one thing for me, like really had nothing to do with golf, but like being more comfortable with like myself a little bit. I think like all people, even if you don't play sports in college, probably learn this lesson in college. It's just like being more comfortable with yourself, being comfortable with being on your own. Um, I mean, I learned how to approach people better. And knowing that like probably everyone is scared at a party when they don't know anybody to like walk up to each other. So I think that for me that was the biggest lesson. And then as far as golf goes, I think I wasn't really used to traveling that often, like back to back in my career leading up to college. Obviously, you travel and you travel a ton, but there's always like a lot of weeks in between. And I think being able to go to college and uh, having to combine like all this stuff together and then traveling a lot more or a lot more frequent, I should say, than I did before that prepped me a little bit for professional life, even though like that was a whole different ball game then. But I like to think that that helped a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it would, and it makes sense. There's so many things like it's college is meant to prepare you for the next part of your life, and it's when you add a sport to that, it's like it's like a job with your like you have to do classes and stuff too. And
Right.
if you're not doing well in your classes, like at most universities, when it's supposed to like you have to be academically eligible to play. So like you
Yeah.
have to put in work. You can't be lazy really anywhere to
I think what did actually prepare me on the golf aspect uh, for professional life is the fact that I didn't have necessarily like a coach to hold my hand, like week in and week out. Not that I had that really in the Netherlands, but at least when I felt like I had something, like there was something wrong with my swing or there was something wrong with my putting or whatever, it was like anything technical, like I could call my coach and drive an hour and a half and go see him for a couple hours. And obviously, I didn't have that luxury in college. My college coach wasn't really like a technical guru or anything.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
like, I think a lot of college coaches are like they're just more there for the performance aspect and whatnot, not necessarily for oh you have to be in this position or that position or like you're coming a bit too much from the inside, like stuff like that. I wasn't really told in college, nor did I get like a ton of help with. So I think that prepped me to be a lot more self-sufficient as far like almost like being your own coach a little bit
Mhm.
and taking responsibility for keeping on track like with your drills and your practices and stuff like that, which is something that I think a decent amount of players have trouble with in their rookie year, like just not really knowing what to do.
Right, right, for sure. So after like was there a certain point when you went to Miami, did you plan on turning professional after that? Or did after some time playing at Miami, like when did you come to the decision you want to turn pro? And then what was the decision? What was that process like for you?
I think I knew I wanted to turn pro probably end of my sophomore year in college. I I'm not sure why. I think it was just time, to be honest. Like I really enjoyed my time being in college and I enjoyed my time with the team, but I also like wanted to move on and I didn't think that I was done with golf yet. So then in my head, turning professional was the like logical step to take. So like I didn't go look for internships and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I just focused on golf. So yeah, and then my process going from college to, well, in my case, semester tour was my senior year. I did qualifying school and barely missed basically getting onto the LPGA, which I think was such a bummer when that happened for me, but probably was like the 3 years I did on semester tour, I learned more, and I'm not sure that back in my senior year of college, I was really ready for the LPGA tour, if that makes sense. Like I thought I was, but looking back, I don't think I really was.
Yes. So there's two things I really wanted to touch on was your time on Symmetra Tour and Q series, but we'll start with Symmetra Tour because you just mentioned it.
Yeah.
There's I think that there is like low key just based on some of my observations, I've been working the professional women's game since 2017.
Yeah.
So I am by no means saying that I'm an expert, just from an outside perspective, seeing players that maybe like the LPGA, that level is the level of golf is so high. Like the depth is just it's massive. And until you really get out there like on a week to week basis, I feel like it's hard to really comprehend like just how deep the game is. And not that like players on Symmetra Tour don't have the game to compete there. It's just figuring out that process, like how much you're going to practice, how much you're going to work out, what like travel schedule. There's so many things you have to pick up. So like for you, like you said, you barely missed out on getting that card in 2018.
Hmm.
You went into the Symmetra Tour in 2019 as a Symmetra Tour rookie. 3 years out there.
Yeah.
What are like some of the biggest lessons you took away, and like what is life on the Symmetra Tour like, or what was it like for you?
Um, I think biggest lessons, let's start with that. Being self-sufficient. Don't freak out when you're at a tournament and stuff's not really going your way. Like technically, like sometimes you just fade the ball and you can work out all these swing thoughts, but at the end of the day, this is just what's going to happen. This is just what the ball flight is going to be. And there's really no need to freak out, because I think in college, the difference for me was, oh, if I am not having a good week, first of all, I probably will still end up top 20. But second of all, it really doesn't matter. Like, sure, it's annoying, but I'll get over it. And it doesn't really affect me that much as far as a ranking goes. Like,
Mhm.
I didn't really care about the rankings. I just cared about the NCAAs in college. So for me in college, it was like win or do okay-ish. But like neither one of them has consequences really for me.
Right.
Whereas on tour, I used to, and I think even last year sometimes still did, like I used to freak out when I wasn't like puring the ball. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm hitting the ball so bad. Like this is never gonna go well, blah, blah, blah. But then I still have to compete. And I still need to try and get a top 10 because otherwise I'm losing money basically. So that's a very different kind of pressure than what I was used to either in college or even for the national team. Like, of course, I care about my performance on the national team, and because I'm competitive, I always want to win, and I don't like to lose, that kind of stuff. But it's just a very different kind of pressure being out on Symmetra Tour. A, not trying to lose money, and B, like trying to get into that top 10 because that's the only way you're getting out of there, basically. And in my opinion, like Symmetra Tour is not that fun. So like I wanted to get out of there like as fast as I could, basically. Like I didn't turn professional to play on the Symmetra Tour, as like harsh as that may sound. I turned professional to play on the LPGA and compete on the LPGA with the best. So I think also me putting that pressure on myself made it a little bit more difficult, maybe than it had to be. But I did learn in those 3 years how to like efficiently deal with those kind of emotions that you may have every now and then.
Yeah. So you mentioned not fun, and I don't think this is not a knock on the Symmetra Tour itself, like, but
No.
just because it's a great opportunity for players to get that experience and then have a chance at taking the next step to the LPGA.
Yeah.
But talk about some of the reasons why it's not fun. Because like there's several reasons,
Yeah.
but
I mean, again, for me, the main reason was that I was not fun. And that doesn't mean that I wasn't having fun. Like I have my
right.
group of people, and actually most of those people that like were my core group of friends all made it out this year. And we're all gonna
Woo.
be there on tour on the LPGA, which is actually really cool.
Yes.
But so it's not that I didn't have fun like every week, that I was just like freaking sad all the time. That's not really the case. But
It's
in
like
the
a
back of my
grind.
head, I'm just like, was that?
It's just a tough grind.
Yeah.
Opposed like you have fun playing golf, but there's a lot of other things that make like they're not like, woohoo, this is an amazing time.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's just like when you think of, I want to be a professional golfer, or at least I thought this, like, I want to play for like all the marbles and like with the best that have all the marbles basically. And so that's just simply not really what Symmetric Tour is. Symmetric Tour is a developmental tour and it's great that it's there, but it has its purpose. And for me, that purpose is for you to learn your lessons to get better and then eventually go on to the LPGA Tour. Like it to me, it shouldn't be like we're there for 10 years and like we're happy that we're there, basically. Of course, like I'm happy that golf is my career and that I'm able to do all these things, but I would rather have it be on the LPGA Tour than on Symmetric Tour. And so for me, it's not like that I was daily reminding myself, like, oh, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. I don't want to be here. But it's mainly like um, being on that tour made me work harder almost like to get out of there just because it wasn't where I wanted to be.
Yeah. So like I know as an example on the financial side, and things have improved
Yeah.
a lot for the Symmetra Tour. And I
Mhm.
know I think the tournament in French Lick next year is gonna be the biggest purse ever. I think the winner is gonna get like $50,000, which is a
That's great.
massive for Symmetra Tour.
Yeah.
But essentially to make to actually like break even on a Symmetra
Mhm.
Tour a year, like what you're saying,
Yeah.
it's not really possible. Like you can't make a career on the Symmetra Tour unless like Lilia Vu she won 3 times last year and
Yeah.
she got into 6 figures.
Yeah.
But by also playing that well, you advance to the LPGA. So like
Exactly.
if you're playing well enough to actually make enough money to make a living there, then you're not going to
Yeah.
be playing there anyway.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. I think if you want to do it well, so um with coaching and traveling and all that stuff, and like you have to be in that top 10 and to break even basically. And like if you're in the top 10, you're advancing, right? Like you're saying. So yeah, I think that kind of proves my point. Like Symmetric Tour is not there to be on Symmetric Tour all the time.
right. So for the Symmetra Tour rookies this year,
Yeah.
what's some advice that you would give to them?
Ooh. Um, I would, I mean, try to enjoy it as much as you can because, like,
Yeah.
it can be fun. And I hope that you're playing golf, like, you're playing professional golf because you love golf, like, you like playing golf, which, to be honest, I didn't really for a very long time. I just really liked competing. But try to have fun. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me because I think if I let me say it this way. I think if I had a better perspective for all of those 3 years, if I had the perspective that I had for 3 years of Symmetric Tour, the perspective that I had at Q-Series this past year, then I think I would have gotten on the LPGA Tour a lot quicker. Because the perspective that I had for Q-Series is I worked my ass off to be good enough, I think, to be on the LPGA Tour. And now I'm just gonna trust that the work that I have put in was enough. And I'm gonna try with every freaking shot that I'm hitting to very boringly remind myself that I did enough and that it has to be enough and that I am not to like psych myself out, but just like hit the shot because this is the work that I've put in. So now it's like leave it up to like the work basically. And I think those 3 years on Symmetric Tour, too often I didn't trust my own abilities.
Mhm.
So I always thought like I put too much pressure like on the result, on like not losing money, on being in the top 10 to get to the LPGA, and not enough to, oh, look at all the work that you've done. Look at all the improvements that you've made. Like just trust yourself. And I think I didn't really figure that out until I got to Q series this past year. So I think that's the advice that I would give. Like work your tail off in the off season or work your tail off like everything leading up to the tournaments and then obviously like grind through it, don't give up. But I think most people aren't really likely to give up during a round. So I don't know. I think it's more about like trusting your own abilities and then hitting every shot with like 100% commitment that gets you through Symmetric Tour and gets you through like Q series more than anything.
I think that's wonderful advice. It's- that's really great advice. And you talking about Q series.
Yeah.
So you played in the inaugural one in 2018. That was the first ever Q series.
Yeah.
So previous to that, Q school third stage was 5 rounds. Then they changed things up, and you were like in college, so like you probably saw this happening. Actually, do you remember when you saw it? Like, what was your first thought? Did you think anything of it?
I think the only thing I remember thinking was, oh my God, it's going to be in Pinehurst, and North Carolina can be really freaking cold at that time of year. And it
And
was.
and it
Surprise,
was.
surprise. It was freaking cold and rainy, and everyone had a miserable time, I think.
I think based on some conversations that I've had with people that played, I think that is a common sentiment.
Yeah.
And I think that the golf scores also show that. Like it was a
Yeah.
different playing environment. I know like Pinehurst are different golf courses too, but since you got to play at both, that you played at two different locations, what are
Yeah.
some of the differences that you notice? Obviously the temperature, but some differences that you notice from the two?
Um, they're completely different golf courses. Like Pinehurst is very much its own thing. It's like a North Carolina course. But actually, it was funny. The second year at Pinehurst, we had two different grass types, which was interesting. But besides the point, it's a lot more narrow, and it got a lot colder. So, and that first year was just horrible. I don't think anyone had fun that year. Not that Q series is the point to have fun, but
Right.
like I just saw
It's
people being so miserable, myself included. Like it was pouring rain. We had to go into the night, and then the next morning we would get there at like 5:30, would tee off at 7, and then still didn't finish because like why could we? It was just miserable. There's no other way to put it. And then missing out by one shot, I remember I was just devastated. I was like, all of this for nothing.
mm,
That second year was a little bit better. It was still really cold, but it wasn't as bad as the first year. But I think, I mean, Alabama course, they were just a lot wider
yeah,
and a little bit different grass. But mainly, I think the weather aspect of it was just a lot better.
helped a lot.
Yeah, like we weren't teeing off in like 32 degrees, basically.
I think there was a couple mornings where it was like might have touched the 40s, but then
Yeah.
the sun, like as the day went on, the sun came out and it warmed up. Just
Yeah.
much more ideal like
Like
golf
that
weather.
last day that we had this year, I think was pretty cold when we started, but it warmed up pretty quickly. And I just remember flashback to like 2 years before that. So like the second time I played Q series at Pinehurst, we had one morning where I swear to God, my driver flew like 180 yards. And I was like, oh no. Now I have a 4 iron and we're at like a 9 iron last or yesterday. And it was a tough grind.
That is wild.
Yeah.
So this year, or I should say this year, it's 2022, 2021.
Yeah.
This most recent Q series, when you get to it's a grind. It's a long 8 rounds. I guess first of all, talk about playing an 8 round tournament because that's a lot of golf.
Yeah, it's a lot of golf. It's a grind. I think most people almost want to see it as like two tournaments back to back, especially since it's like at two different golf courses. And even now, like it was a 3 hour drive between the two. But yeah, it's a lot. I think it benefited me that I had played it twice before. And I kind of knew that it's not like a normal tournament in the sense that like the winner is gonna be, well, I thought the winner isn't gonna be like 15 under at both events, just because like there's a lot more pressure. Boy, did I that got proved wrong. But still, what did I shoot? Like eight, how 14 under, 16? I don't even remember. But like I kind of knew that if I played under par every round, I would get in. just looking at the scores like from 2 years ago and then 3 years ago. And if I saw it that way, that was going to be a lot less pressure than thinking every time, like, oh, I have to shoot three under this round. I have to
Mm.
shoot like so low in order to get in. And I just knew that that wasn't going to be the case. And then I don't know, I just played it really safe because I only had to shoot like one under basically. And I also knew that everyone's going to make mistakes, especially in 8 rounds of golf. You're going to make a ton of mistakes. So I just tried to not make like the really big mistake and have like an
Right.
8 somewhere. And I think that game plan worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it seems like it. Like, and the thing about playing at a Q series, I think a lot of players don't necessarily know. Like, you can, I guess, maybe having experience. Of course, I think you probably don't want to be like an experienced Q series player. I don't
Uh,
think
yes.
that's probably not the goal, but for anyone. But having a couple years to know, like, hey, it is 8 rounds, and knowing that I don't need to go super. Of course, it's nice, but if you just play your game and, like you said, avoid the big numbers, that it, there's so many players that are there for the first time, so many
Yeah.
players that are feeling a lot more pressure. Where, say, like, you maybe have a, there's still probably stress and pressure, but you know how to cope, and you're like, I don't need to shoot 8 6 unders. I
Yeah.
just I just need to play more consistent golf.
Yeah. And yeah, I think that's definitely really big. But then also, I think depending on what type of player you are, like you can be a bit maybe like a bit more emotional player and care a lot about how you're hitting your shots and like where you're ending up. But that was another goal that I set for myself. I was like, we're not allowed to freak out this week or these 2 weeks because I'm one of those people who gets annoyed when I don't like flush my irons, for example.
Mm.
But I told myself, like, you literally cannot because, well, I get annoyed and either one of two things happen. I get really fired up and we start playing really well, or the complete opposite is going to happen.
Mm.
So having that like potential, like unpredictable element in my game, I didn't think that was going to help that much. So we tried to just like judge every shot very neutral, whether it was the best shot ever or the worst shot ever. It didn't really matter. It's just more like a, okay, that's whatever. We're gonna walk to this ball now and try to get the most out of it, basically. I think that really helps. And I also think that's probably a mentality that I'm gonna um have from this point on because it's probably very much healthier than before.
I like it. So when the final putt dropped on the 18th hole, actually that's the 144th hole.
Yeah.
What? And I think you probably knew that you were inside that position that was going to secure your card. What was
Yeah.
the emotions that you felt?
Um I remember I was like kind of surprised that I wasn't crying. As weird as that may sound. Because there were a lot of people crying, both good and bad, which I
Yeah.
completely get. But I think because that entire week, that second week, I hadn't made that many mistakes. And I mean, I had a killer start that first day, that second week. So I think I kind of got into the headspace of, oh, I think this is gonna happen. And so that entire like last night that I played was just like I was very defensive. I was very safe. I was like, we're just gonna make pars and par it out, and then we're gonna be on the LPGA. So I think I had like 9 holes to think about, like that potentially happening, and then that last putt. I mean, it was a tap in for birdie, which was kind of cool, but I think that last putt didn't mean that much for me. It was more so the shot leading up to it. I was talking to my caddy. I think it was like 110 to the pin, maybe 120, 120. And it's over this little creek, the 18th hole is. And the entire putting green goes like this, like it's very much uphill. And if you land it anywhere, like if you land it 15 feet past, it would spin off the green into the ravine. And for some reason, I thought this was the most difficult shot in my entire life. because a 120 is like the smallest pitching wedge for me. Like it's an easy
Mm.
shot for me. Like that shouldn't be hard. And my caddy was so frustrated with me because he was the whole time he's just like, it's a pitching wedge. And I was like, yeah, but I don't know. Maybe I can't. And he was just like, I don't understand why this is so hard for you right now. Just hit the damn pitching wedge. And I just remember setting up the ball and I was like, but like I saw the scoreboard that was on the right, and I was like, but what if I hit the score? Like, what if I shank it and it hits the scoreboard, and then all of a sudden I make it 12, and I'm not like it was ridiculous. And then I hit my shot. I hit it fine and tapped in for birdie. But I just remember that was in my mind the hardest shot I have ever hit, probably, and it wasn't that hard.
I mean, to be fair, that green was a very like I saw so many people end up
In the
in the
yeah,
ravine. Like
I bet
it's so easy. Like I
that's such
showed
a
up.
weird hole.
That's like especially when they put the hole on the front and then like which there's not a lot of play. If you put it on the top, I don't know. It's a tricky hole, but
Yeah.
it's easy to I understand, but then I also understand your caddy's perspective. Like, hey, come on out. It's just
No,
pitch,
we
pitching
hit
wedge.
that. Oh, I hit that shot, and it was. I mean, we're this far from the hole. Like I hit a perfect shot, and he looked at me, and he literally goes, "Why you got to make everything so hard for yourself?" And I was like, "I don't know."
So you finish up Q Series, tie 10th. You are
Yeah.
now a 2022 LPGA Tour rookie. In one word, what does hearing that mean to you?
Relief. Relief, because
Relief.
for the last 3 years I didn't want to be where I wanted to be, and now finally, my fourth year as a professional golfer, I am where I want to be. So relief more than anything, and I think also like when Q Series was over, that was the main emotion that was there. It was just like I can breathe.
Just like a weight lifted off your shoulders.
Yes, very
Yes.
much so.
So now that you are here, LPGA Tour member with a wonderful status, which is
Mhm.
another part of like the Q Series, top 45 get status, but it's not like all 45 don't get full status.
Right. Yeah.
So so you being where you finished, full status, correct?
Yeah.
So what are you looking forward to the most this year?
Ooh. Mm, mm, mm. Ooh. I don't really know. There's so many things that I really look forward to. I think maybe the majors. Like I've never played in a major, and that has, I mean, I wouldn't say a dream of mine, but that has been something that I'm just like, whoa, that's really cool. So I think the majors, like playing them, the courses are always pretty awesome as well. So that
Yes.
would be my main thing that I'm really looking forward to. But honestly, like just competing on the LPGA, because I'm I'm finally where I want to be. I hope I'll be there for a long time and like continue to climb the rankings and everything. But I think just the whole experience of being able to play golf at the highest level is just like I'm finally there.
Yeah.
So that's really cool.
It's super cool. Like there's so few people, and I think about that in golf too. When there was like this brief moment when I was 18, getting done playing baseball, and I was like, I got obsessed with golf, and I was like, I want to do everything I can. I want like I could turn pro. Yeah, no, no, not a chance. So for any like, there's so many good players. I have friends, they turn pro, like played on mini tours and stuff, and like they're amazing golfers.
Yeah.
Not even close to playing at like PGA Tour level or any Corn Ferry. Like it's not close. Like the
Right.
talent level so high. So to reach the highest level in women's golf, the LPGA Tour, that is a massive accomplishment in itself. Is there anybody you're looking forward to playing with or meeting this season? I mean, maybe weird as like to talk about peers, but
No, not in particular actually. Or there isn't really like a one person that I really look up to or anything.
yeah,
Never really had that. And not even on the men's tour where I'm like, oh my gosh, if I can play with you, that would be like my dream. But I'm I'm gonna enjoy some great golf. Like
yes,
it's the talent and the work is so deep, both
yeah,
on the LPGA and on the Spectrum Tour, but like I just enjoy playing with good golfers and watching good golf. So that's going to be a treat for me.
Yeah. What has the preparation been like for you, like so far this year? Because I see, like, again, if you follow you on Instagram, you see you in the gym working. But what's the preparation been like for you these last few weeks?
Um, yeah, it's a lot of like gym work, trying to like maintain speed, maybe get a little bit more speed. I've been trying to gain weight, which isn't going that well. Um, and then there's some like little technical things in my swing that I'm working on, like little feels, but it's a lot of like maintaining. And then honestly, like I've been playing a lot, which I very much enjoy. And I think past few years I haven't done enough of, because it's very different, like being on the driving range and finding different feels, and then being on the course. And I think being on the course these past couple weeks, like very often, like almost every day, has really helped me like hit certain shots, or like trying to figure out like, oh, if I do this while I'm actually playing, like this swing thought, or these positions, like that actually really helps me versus like just kind of just standing on the driving range for 2 hours and hitting the same shot over and over and over again. Like it gets to a point where it's really boring, and being on the course is always just very different.
Yeah, yeah. How would you describe your game?
Um, Little above average from the tee and very solid iron play.
You know what? I was looking at some stats. I think the iron play is that's really impressive. At least what you did on the Symetra tour.
Yeah.
You 2019, 2020, 2021. You were sixth, seventh, and fourth in greens and regulation. So
Yeah, I hit a lot.
77.48% in 2019, then 74.15%, and then 78.42%. Like
Yeah.
that's that's gonna work.
Yeah.
And I can see why you might, when someone hits the ball as well as you do, get a little frustrated when you're not quote unquote flushing it. But it's amazing too to see at the professional level, like when you guys are hitting golf balls and you're like, "Oh, that's off." So I
Mhm.
remember, I don't know if you know Jacqueline Lee at all, but
A little bit. Yeah.
I was walking a practice round with her last summer, and she hit a ball into like her approach into a par four, and she's like, like she was frustrated, and like I could hear that it wasn't like flush, but
Yeah.
she was still frustrated. Walk up to the green, and it's like 15 feet pin high. I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Yeah.
I was like, "You missed that." I'm like, I know what she's talking about, but eh, I'm sure, and that's only something I think that you as the player can really recognize the most. Like when you're a little bit
Mhm.
off, you probably feel that a little bit.
Yeah, and honestly, I think what makes a really good player, at the end, obviously, I mean, putting, putting and short game, but additionally to that would be how you handle when it's not perfect, so to say. And that's something, if we're talking about like a little bit of off-season work, that's definitely something that I've worked on a little bit, and talking to different people and figuring some stuff out for myself, how to better handle that. Because at the end of the day, even if you miss hit it by a little bit, it's not the worst thing in the world. And also, like, it's just gonna happen. Probably we're gonna flush 5 shots on a good day. Like, there's
Right.
a very good possibility that we're gonna flush 0 shots on the day, and we
Right.
still gotta make it to the green. Like, we still gotta make birdies, we still gotta make pars, we still gotta get up and down and all that good stuff. So, for me, that yes, I get very critical of myself, but it's also kind of the downfall for me, because I have very high standards of my irons and I have very high standards of my driver. Like, I care a lot, and sometimes I just care a little bit too much, especially from a performance aspect.
Yeah. Well, so as you approach the start of your rookie season in this year, what are some of the goals that you have?
Um, I mean, I have some like what you call like process goals, just very measurable. Like, I want to get this percentage up and down, and I want to
Mm,
improve my putts within 10 feet, for example. Um, I have those goals. And if we're talking about results, I think what I'm going to try and do is be rookie of the year. But again, that's not really something that's in my control. If, for example, Casey plays out of her mind and she wins one or two, like, congrats.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
like that's a fun thing to work towards, but it's obviously not something that I have full control over. So for me, it's more about looking at my stats and seeing what I can improve. And then, like I said, like the little bit of mental things. There's some things that in my, I don't want to say my thinking, but like how I approach the game, I just want to make a little shift. And so I'm working on that.
Okay. I enjoy the process goals, kind of goals, because like if you hit those like results, they're
Yeah.
gonna also follow up. So like it can
Yeah,
be
and I think that's what we were talking about earlier too. The thing that I like figured out in Q-Series, like how to trust myself. I think the only way for me to do that is like to fully trust myself is if I know that I've made these actionable steps to make my game better. And I worked on this to like I worked on Z to accomplish like X. And then like if I have that in front of me, then I can fully commit to what I'm now doing on the course. So for me, that's how I'm getting the most out of my performance. It's just like very cliche, but like trusting the process.
trust the process.
Yeah.
You know the thing about cliches is that a lot of them are so true though. So like
Yeah.
it's all good. So as we approach the end of this episode, which by the way, thank you again for
Yeah,
taking
of
some
course.
time.
Happy to do
A
it.
few quicker questions.
Mhm.
Um and this first one, maybe it's not the quickest, but who is Davey off the golf course?
Um, we touched upon it a little bit.
Yeah.
I'm a dog owner. I really like hiking. I really like being in the outdoors. I don't love sitting still. So I'm kind of always on the move. However, with what I studied and everything, I really enjoy watching movies, which is kind of a juxtaposition. But I appreciate movies a lot, so I watch a lot of those in my actual like on the couch off time. No, I like cooking. Besides that, I really like good food.
Ooh.
So, uh, in a short answer, that's it.
Do you have a go-to meal you like to cook, prepare?
It I get on
Yeah.
like kicks.
Yeah.
So I think right now, man, I don't even know. Like we just had like a salmon bowl where we just
Mm,
like put salmon, broccoli, and like little fingerling potatoes in the oven. Just let it sit there and eat it together, which I really like because I don't have to do that much work. But yeah, so that we will probably eat for a couple nights and then we get on to something else. It's very boring, but
no, no,
yeah.
no. It sounds good. Do you have a nickname?
No, not really.
No nicknames.
No, it's just Davy. It's
Okay,
short enough though, so
that's true.
and like a lot of people know the name already because my coach, she has the same name and she used to be on the LPGA for a long time. So oftentimes if we're talking about nickname, it's like, hi, I'm Davy. And if it's someone who knows my coach, it's like, no, 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 the other Davy.
The other
So
one.
yeah.
Okay, if it's karaoke night, what is your go-to song, or what song are you gonna sing?
Oh my God. Uh I don't even know, man. Uh like some John Mayer song probably. Because those
Eh,
are like the only ones that I know the lyrics to. That's it.
oh, that's good. That's a good answer.
Okay.
I don't want to make you think too much, but not make you think too much. But if you had four dinner guests, dead or
Yeah.
alive, who would you have join you?
Issa Rae, John Mayer, which I don't know how that's gonna flow, but we're just gonna go with it. Um, Serena Williams,
Ooh, I love it.
and ooh, I need a fourth one. Um, mm, 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 mm. We got three, right?
Yes.
Whatever. Her husband can be there too. Alexis Ohanian.
Okay. Founder of Reddit? Did he found it or he was?
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
co-founder.
Okay.
He seems
Yeah,
like a
that's
cool dude.
and
Actually,
he's
no, I take that back. Can we invite LeBron?
yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Sorry, Alexis, you gotta go.
Appreciate all your support of women's athletes. But yeah. LeBron, that sounds
Yeah,
good.
sorry, I forgot about him.
It's okay. Okay, and then final part, a few rapid fire questions.
Yeah,
Early golf or twilight golf?
early, because I'm trying to avoid traffic in LA.
Okay, that's makes a lot of sense. If you could have any superpower, what would it be?
Reading people's minds.
Ooh. Coffee or tea?
Coffee. Big coffee person.
Big coffee person. Breakfast, lunch, or dinner?
Breakfast.
And would you rather have 2 hole-in-ones in 1 round or the course record?
Course record.
Course record,
Yes.
without a doubt.
10 out of 10. I don't care that much about only ones unless you can win a Lambo like
Ooh.
2 of those girls did at the Pelican.
Uh-huh. Do you
Unless
have
that
how many hole-in-ones do you have?
1.
1?
It's 1, and it was the only reason I got it was because this was during COVID, and there was a pool noodle in, and I just slam dunked it in between the pool noodle and the hole. And that's the only reason I stayed in.
So, like, that would've probably broken the cup otherwise, like,
Yes. Or like bounce in the cup and then come out. There was
Blown
no
out.
way that I was gonna stay in. Yeah.
Well, a course record, I guess that is pretty cool. Your name gets put up there and all that stuff. I approve. I've asked several people that question and not almost everyone has said course record. So yes, I'm gonna have to come up with a different question. I'm waiting for someone to say a different answer, but I think
Well,
everyone's
it's
gonna
like
say
it's 2 good shots versus like
an amazing round.
62, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'd rather do that like consecutively, like play really freaking good.
Yeah. So actually I just talked to did an episode with Bianca.
Mhm.
And she said course record because she's like her rationale is that in the course of that course record you could have 2 hole-in-ones. So like
That's fair.
she actually has a course record herself and had a hole-in-one during that course record round.
Oh, that's pretty
So
cool.
I was like, that's very good logic.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't think that deep, but I was still in my head. I was still with the dinner guests, so
You have another replacement for the dinner guest?
no,
No.
it's gonna
You're
be it.
set. All right.
Yes.
Well, Davey, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with
Thank you,
me
Ben.
and best of luck this season. I'll see you out there sometime
Thank
soon.
you. Yeah, I'll see you out there in Boca.